Well, many people may pretend to hold that perspective, but they do not live that perspective. And the most effective means of dealing with this is to patiently speak with a person right up to the point where they contradict what they just said, because they're going to. The fact is, we live in God's world. And if you're talking with someone at a university, I was speaking to a young man at a university once, and it was a very cold night. And he was telling me all about this relativism, and we can't really know this, and we can't really know that. And at one point, he had actually said to me, I can't even know whether my jacket exists. Now, he had this beautiful, thick leather jacket, and it was very, very, very cold outside. And so we're talking for a while, and I just sort of let him talk and talk until finally he said something. He said, I know I should do better at that, and I knew I had him. And I turned to him and I said, you know what? You're a thief. And he looked at me and I said, you are living in God's world and you're stealing from God's world to then deny that God exists. He's like, what do you mean? I said, you can't live consistently with what you're professing to me. And I'll give you an illustration. I said, when you walk out of this room, it is below freezing outside, the wind is whipping, you are going to pick up the coat that you pretend you can't prove exists, and you're going to put it on. You're not walking out there in shirt sleeves. Because you see, you know you live in God's world, and it's cold outside in God's world right now. And when you walk down the street, you're going to walk on the sidewalk. You're not going to walk in the middle of the street, because you happen to know that in God's world, when the truck hits you, you die. You know this is true. And if you could get in a car, you're going to drive down the right side of the road, not the left side of the road, because you know the laws of physics will also result in your dying if you don't do this. You see, you don't live consistently with the worldview you are pretending to be able to put together here. And so he actually said to me, he said, no one's ever talked to me like that before. And I said to him, I'm sorry we didn't. We should have done it earlier. Could have saved you some time. And I said, my prayer for you is that every single time you steal from my God's world to hold your little world together, he will convict you that you're doing that. The look on his face was absolutely precious. Now, I don't know what God did in that young man's life. I hope that over time he came to know the truth. But the point is, you're dealing with people in this world that are creatures of God, and they are made by God in his image. And if they want to sit there and say, well, you have your truth and I have my truth, they're not going to live that way. They can't live that way. They can't live with other people that way. They can't live with physics that way. They can't live that way. And so our job is to come along. They are suppressing the knowledge of God. It's like holding down that beach ball in the water when you're swimming. You hold that thing down there, but as soon as you let it go, it pops up out of the water. They're holding down the knowledge of God. Our job is not to come along and give them another beach ball to hold down. They'll just put another hand on that one. Our job is to come along and start prying up their fingers. They're not going to like that. Stop that, stop that. But that's the best thing we can do for them, because they're made in the image of God. They're stealing from God's world. Does that make us better than them? The only reason that we stopped holding that knowledge down is because God in his grace changed us. He removed that rebellion from us. That's our desire for them as well.